Her silence isn't her saying no. It's her checking something. She's not checking if she likes you, but checking how strong you are. This is the moment most men get wrong. They hear nothing and think it means she doesn't care. They see no reply and think she has made up her mind. But silence is not nothing. It is a test. She isn't listening to your words. She is seeing how strong you are without words. Why does one man fall apart when she goes quiet while another man becomes impossible to forget? It is not money, not looks, not being smooth that makes the difference. It is strength. One man falls apart with worry. Endless messages, explanations, saying sorry, trying hard to prove he matters. The other man waits. He breathes. He stays calm. And because of that, he becomes more powerful. She ignores one man because he tries too hard. She can't stop thinking about another because he refuses to play games. This is why you are here. You have lived the falling apart. You have begged, texted, explained, pleaded, only to find yourself forgotten. And now you must face the truth without anything to ease the pain. You will learn 7 rules. Each one is made to flip her silence into your advantage. No chasing, no begging, no trying to get her approval, just rules. These rules are not tricks. They are building blocks. They rewire how you respond, and that changes everything. Here is what you will leave with. First, the exact way to act right away when she ignores you without losing any value. You will no longer be the man who falls apart when she doesn't reply. You will act in a way that makes you more valuable. Second, the very thin line between calm strength and cold distance. Too many men go to extremes. They either panic and chase or they freeze into proud silence that kills attraction. You will learn the balance point, the calmness that earns respect without closing doors. Third, rule number 5, the Scarcity and Boundary Law, the binding rule. This is where ego games die. You will understand why your presence must have value, why access must be limited, and how silence itself can be turned into proof of your value. This is not theory. It is the unspoken code women follow whether they admit it or not. And so the game you have been losing is no longer hers to control. It becomes yours. You will stop seeing silence as losing. You will start using it as advantage. You will learn to control the only area that was ever yours. Your response, your standard, your strength. This is not comfort. This is not reassurance. This is exposure. Exposure of the lies that have cost you years, dignity, and self-respect. If you want pity, leave now. If you want rules, stay. Because once you see the rules, you will never chase silence again. You will keep your pace, guard your value, and lead with rules. Now, the rules, learn them once, and you never chase silence again. Rule number 1, control the only area. You don't control her response. You control your standard. That is the first cut into the lie. You were trained to believe that if you say the right words, send the right message, do the right action, she will reward you with attention. You lived in that lie until the moment she went silent. And when she did, panic ate you up. Why? Because you thought you could control her response, but you never could. Every fall apart begins with that lie. You sit staring at your phone, replaying every word you sent. You torture yourself. Maybe I said too much. Maybe I was too cold. Maybe she's with someone else right now. The spiral gets worse because you hold on to the fantasy that her silence is a puzzle you can solve. But silence is not a puzzle. It is a wall. And no amount of banging makes the wall answer. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. There are 2 areas. What is within your control and what is outside of it. Her behavior, her replies, her moods, her ego, outside. Your behavior, your rhythm, your standard, inside. Most men reverse the rule. They waste their power on her area and abandon their own. And in doing so, they enslave themselves. Control begins with acceptance. She is free to disappear, free to ignore, free to test. That is her area. You cannot touch it. The moment you accept this, fear goes away. Why? Because panic comes from trying to grab what cannot be grabbed. You panic because you believe silence is a monster you must kill. But when you see it clearly, silence is only air. So where is your power in your response, in your pace, in your standard? She ignores you for 6 hours. You do not break. You hold your rhythm. You choose when and how to reply, not from impulse, but from rules. And this is the first fix. Instead of chasing her absence, you measure your presence. Most men will crumble into trying too hard. Rapid messages, confessions, explanations. You will do none of this. You will pause. You will breathe. You will take back the tempo. Here is the test. The next time she goes silent, set a clock. 60 minutes. Not 10, not 30, 60. In that hour, you will not touch your phone. You will not write drafts. You will not practice apologies. You will prove to yourself that you own your pace. And when the hour ends, you will decide, not react. This is your small victory. This is your proof of control. Understand her silence is not the enemy. Your reflex is. And once you break the reflex, the chains fall. She loses the power to control your emotions. You take back control over the only area that was ever yours. When control returns to you, everything rewires. Rule number 2, reverse polarity. Don't perform. Silence invites performance. You refuse the stage. This is the trap. When she pulls back, your instinct is to perform. You feel the urge to prove you're worthy of her attention. You explain. You justify. You try too hard thinking that if you just show enough effort, she will reward you with a response. But that stage is a trap she sets without knowing. And every man who climbs onto it loses. Performance always kills respect. She ignores you for 6 hours and you respond with 6 paragraphs. She gives you silence and you repay her with theater. What does this show? That your value depends on her recognition. That you exist to convince her. And the moment she senses that dependence, she pulls away. Not because she hates you, but because performance destroys polarity. Reverse the polarity. She gives you cold. You pull back heat. She slows down. You match her tempo, not with anger, but with weight. This is not being mean on purpose. This is not a pout. This is control. You do not punish. You do not sulk. You simply refuse to dance on the stage she has set. Understand? Women test reflexes, not words. When she pulls back, she watches. She wants to see if your identity comes from yourself or depends on others. Most men rush to fill the gap. You will not. You will let the gap breathe. And in that silence, something powerful happens. She feels the gravity of a man who does not scramble for approval. The calm you hold has weight. It messes up her games because ego cannot thrive without reaction. When she goes quiet and you remain still, she is left alone with her own silence. And that silence becomes louder than any message you could send. The reflex to perform is ancient. It comes from fear of being abandoned. But fear is not strategy. Fear is surrender. To reverse polarity, you must resist the reflex. That is strength. Your small action. Delete the draft paragraph. Do not edit it. Do not polish it. Do not wait 3 hours and send it anyway. Erase it. Send nothing. That emptiness is your statement. It says, I do not perform for silence. I do not reward absence with effort. She may return. She may not. That outcome is hers to decide. But your strength remains untouchable because you refuse to play the fool on her stage. And here is the surprise. The less you perform, the more unforgettable you become. Because men who refuse the script are rare. Men who hold back performance are men whose presence stays in her mind. So the next time her silence tempts you to prove yourself, reverse the polarity. Step off the stage. Let the curtain drop. The performance ends not with applause but with your refusal to act. Now convert her silence into fuel. Rule number 3. Turn silence into building. If attention is gone, ability must rise. The void she leaves is not a punishment. It is a resource. Most men treat her silence like poison. Obsessing, refreshing, replaying every detail. But silence is not a toxin. It is raw energy waiting to be redirected. If she holds back attention, you must not shrink. You must expand. Anxiety is just energy with no command. Left unchecked, it loops in your chest, spins in your mind, eats at your dignity. But the moment you change it, convert it into action, its nature changes. What once was panic becomes momentum. What once was obsession becomes building blocks. Look at the man who crumbles. His body decays because he stops training, waiting on her call. His money stops growing because his focus dissolves into the void of her absence. His skills rust because he chooses being frozen over growth. That man becomes smaller every day she ignores him. And the smaller he becomes, the less reason she has to return. Now look at the man who builds. She goes silent and he pours that silence into the barbell, the book, the project, the deal. Every unanswered text becomes a rep, every hour of no response becomes a lesson studied. Every night without her validation becomes a brick laid in his empire. This man does not collapse. He compounds, and when she looks again, he is not where she left him. He is further, stronger, heavier in presence. The surprise is brutal but real. The more you grow, the less you need her response. And the less you need, the more magnetic you become. Because women do not orbit desperation. They orbit path. They crave the man who is in motion, the man whose life rises with or without them. So you must direct the current. Do not let anxiety sit idle. Redirect it into 3 areas. Body. Train with discipline, not for show, but for toughness. Skill. Get or sharpen something that builds over time. Language. Trade. Craft. Money. Invest in growth. Whether through side projects, deals, or saving with discipline. These are not distractions. They are changes. You are not running from silence. You are converting it into fuel. Your small action. Schedule 3 real wins in the next 7 days. 1 for your body, 1 for your skill, 1 for your money. Put them on the calendar, not in your head. By the week's end, you will see proof. Silence did not shrink you. It built you. And something deeper happens here. As you expand, the craving for her reply shrinks. The more ability you create, the less approval you need. You stop asking, why doesn't she respond? You start asking, why would I wait on her response when I have worlds to build? Her silence once felt like loss. Now it becomes investment capital. It funds your growth. Freedom appears when you reframe the event. Rule number 4, reframe to freedom, not loss. Rejection is a story. Redirection is a strategy. You tell yourself a story when she goes silent. The story is loss. She doesn't want me. I wasn't enough. Something is wrong with me. That story corrodes you. It ties your worth to her whim. But silence is not rejection. It is data. And data has no pain until you give it meaning. The weak man interprets silence as personal failure. He kneels before the altar of her response, waiting for validation like a starving beggar. The strong man rewrites the frame. He refuses to call it loss. He names it what it truly is, filtering. Her silence filters noise. It prevents false matches. It frees you from wasting months or years on someone who was never aligned. What you thought was punishment is actually protection. This is the shift. Silence doesn't steal from you. It gives back to you. Every minute you would have wasted chasing clarity is given back. Every ounce of energy you would have burned performing is returned to your account. What looked like subtraction is actually addition if you frame it correctly. When you hold on to the lost story, you shrink. You collapse into scarcity. She was my chance, my hope, my meaning. But when you reframe to freedom, you expand. You realize she gave you back the most valuable resources in existence. Time, energy, focus, and those are resources you can now invest into someone worthy or into your mission. The emotional weight lifts when this truth lands. The crushing heaviness of abandonment dissolves into lightness. You are not the man begging at a closed door. You are the man walking down a hallway with infinite doors, one of which opens only to strength. Her silence didn't destroy you. It redirected you. Your small action is simple but sharp. Write one sentence on paper, not in your mind. Write, her silence gives back my focus. Place it where you will see it daily. On your desk, in your journal, on your mirror. Each time the old story of loss creeps in, strike it down with the new story of freedom. This is not lying to yourself. It is law. Energy cannot be destroyed, only redirected. Her silence is not the end of your energy. It is the return of it. The only question is, will you waste the refund or will you invest it? Most men never reframe. They drown in stories of rejection and every silence becomes a wound. You will not. You will treat silence as a refund and you will reinvest. And in that reinvestment, you stop being needy. You stop being fragile. You become unchained. Rejection was never real, only redirection. Loss was never real. Only freedom. You're ready for the binding law. Do not miss this. Rule number 5, the Scarcity and Boundary Law. Presence without price breeds contempt. This is the axis on which power turns. Every man who loses strength does so for one reason. His presence becomes cheap. He is always available. He responds instantly. He allows unlimited access no matter the cost to his dignity, schedule, or mission. And when presence is free, respect evaporates. Scarcity is not cruelty. It is law. Anything abundant is devalued. Anything restricted is revered. When you hand over your time, attention, and energy without measure, you do not show love. You show weakness. She does not consciously plan to hate you. But contempt grows naturally when value carries no price. Boundaries create price. They define where you end and the world begins. They are not punishments. They are not weapons. They are standards. And without them, you are soil waiting to be trampled. So when she goes silent, you do not lower the bar. You do not beg for her return with faster replies, softer rules, endless access. That is the instinct of the weak. Instead, you raise the threshold. You make entry rarer, not easier. You show without saying that your time has cost. Your presence has scarcity. Your attention has a boundary. This is the Scarcity and Boundary Law. She must see, not hear, that you cannot be summoned at will. When her silence lingers, your response does not shrink. It stretches. If you once replied in an hour, you reply in a day. Not from spite, not from games, but from principle. You have set windows and your life fills them. The emotional shift is deep. When you first enforce boundaries, guilt rises. You fear she will disappear forever. But what actually disappears is her power to toy with you. Ego games require unlimited access. They thrive on your instant obedience. When you remove that access, the game starves. She can no longer manipulate a man who has priced himself. Your small action is exact. Set response windows of 24 to 48 hours for non-essential communication. Define your non-negotiables, your training, your work, your mission. Put them on your calendar, not to her. You do not announce boundaries. You embody them. When she collides with them, she feels weight, not explanation. This is where gravity begins. When your presence is rare, it becomes heavy. When your time has cost, it becomes desired. When your attention has gates, it becomes sacred. Women orbit, not men who are always there, but men whose presence must be earned. This law is not optional. Ignore it and you will always be disposable. Enforce it and her ego games collapse under their own emptiness. Remember, presence without price breeds contempt. Boundaries create gravity. Scarcity creates desire. This is the binding law, the one you cannot escape. Boundaries harden the core. Now, armor the emotions. Rule number 6, emotional armor reps. Trigger resisted is dominance gained. Every silence triggers you. The phone stays dark and your chest tightens. The urge to act rushes in like fire. Text her again. Check her profile. Invent excuses to re-enter her orbit. That urge feels impossible to resist. But it is not fate. It is reflex. And reflex is where men are broken. To master yourself, you must build armor. Not armor of stone that shuts the world out, but armor of discipline that absorbs impact without cracking. And armor is not given. It is trained rep by rep. The Stoics knew this. Control does not come from avoiding triggers, but from facing them without surrender. When her silence strikes, you face the impulse directly. You do not obey. You do not collapse. You delay. That delay is where strength is born. Here is the method. Simple, brutal, effective. 91. 90 seconds of breath. When the urge hits, stop. Breathe slowly, deeply. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4. Do it until the wave passes. Most triggers dissolve in less than 2 minutes when denied reaction. 90 minutes of no contact. Once the breath clears your head, set the clock. An hour and a half of zero outreach. No texts, no calls, no social media checks. You starve the reflex of oxygen. The craving will claw, but you will not feed it. 1 upgrade action. When the 90 minutes close, you channel the energy into a helpful move. Train, study, build, create. 1 step forward replaces what silence tried to steal. This ritual is not small. It is huge. Each time you resist the reflex, you carve new lines into your core. Lines of steel. The weak man reacts instantly, proving his lack of control. The strong man resists, proving he is master of himself. And mastery over self is the only dominance that lasts. Emotionally, this shift changes everything. Instead of being a slave to her silence, you become sculptor of your own state. Every trigger becomes a rep, every urge a weight to lift with time. What once felt unbearable becomes ordinary. Her silence once a blade becomes a feather. Your small action. Run the 90-91 today at the very next urge. Don't plan it for the future. Don't write it as theory. Do it when the fire comes. Breathe for 90 seconds. Hold back for 90 minutes. Then build with 1 action. Understand this. Emotional armor is not built in peace. It is hammered in the moment of chaos. Every rep strengthens you. Every delay hardens you. And one day you will look back and realize her silence no longer shakes you. It trains you. Trigger resisted is dominance gained. And your armor, once fragile, is now steel. Armor lasts longer with a tribe. Rule number 7, Tribe and Purpose Orbit. A man with orbit doesn't chase gravity. This is the final shift. The reason her silence feels like a blade is because you orbit her. Your life rotates around her attention, her replies, her moods. When she pulls away, your entire system collapses. You have no orbit of your own. You are a satellite begging for gravity. But a man with his own orbit never begs. His life revolves around a larger axis. His tribe and his mission. With orbit, her silence shrinks from disaster to background noise. It no longer defines your day. It becomes static in the distance. Your tribe is your shield. Brotherhood, mentors, disciplined allies, men who hold you accountable, men who remind you that you are more than one woman's approval. Alone, you drown in silence. Together, you are pulled upward by men who refuse to let you sink. Brotherhood is not comfort. It is friction. It sharpens you. It forces you to remain unshaken when you would otherwise collapse. Your mission is your engine. Without it, you drift. With it, you rise. Mission is not abstract. It is clear, measurable, demanding. It has milestones, deadlines, victories. A man who locks onto mission has no time to worship absence. He is too busy building. And surprisingly, this is the man-women orbit. The man who cannot be consumed by them because he is already consumed by purpose. Emotionally, this is the great replacement. Obsession is replaced with peace. Anxiety is replaced with focus. You stop asking why doesn't she reply. You start asking how far can I advance my mission today? Her silence once thunder becomes whisper. Your small action. Block 2 weekly sessions. 1 for brotherhood. Connect, train, or build with men who refuse weakness. 1 for mission sprint. 2 hours dedicated to real progress on your goal. Put these sessions in your calendar as unbreakable law. Protect them like oxygen because they are oxygen. When you begin to orbit around tribe and mission, something deep happens. You stop reacting to silence. You stop seeking its end. You stop trying to decode its meaning. Instead, you outgrow it. You realize the strength was never hers to grant or take away. It was yours to claim all along. A man without orbit is a man enslaved by gravity. A man with orbit is a man who commands it. Build your orbit and her silence becomes irrelevant. Build your orbit and women sense what cannot be taught. That you will never collapse because your center is larger than them. With orbit established, you don't answer silence. You outgrow it. You stop negotiating for attention. You priced your presence, hardened your core, and set your orbit. Her silence no longer writes your story. Your standards do. This is the transformation you came for. You began as a man enslaved by absence, panicked by unread messages, shattered by delay. You end as a man who treats silence as resource, who turns absence into growth, who never bends his strength to the whim of another. You no longer collapse when she holds back. You rise. You no longer chase her response. You dictate your rhythm. Understand the weight of this shift. She is no longer the author of your identity. You are. Every rule you've absorbed. Control of your area, refusal of performance, change of energy, reframing to freedom, enforcement of scarcity, discipline of armor, an orbit of tribe and mission has rebuilt you. Piece by piece, illusion burned away. Piece by piece, control returned. And now her silence is irrelevant. It carries no verdict. It delivers no wound. It becomes background noise against the thunder of your own standards. This is freedom. This is law. But you must remain watchful because even the strongest strength can be cracked by reflex. Even the man of steel can lose gravity if he hands power back through ego triggers. One word, one reaction, one slip into old habits and the orbit collapses. She seizes the strength you surrendered. Not because she is stronger, but because you became careless. That is why your journey continues. The next lesson is survival against the subtle traps. The reflexes that betray you before you even notice. Next, ego triggers that make you lose strength. 7 reflexes that hand her the power without a word. Miss one and your boundaries collapse. Watch it now. This is not entertainment. This is war against your own reflexes. Ignore it and you will undo everything you built here. Embrace it and you will become untouchable. And so your final command is this. Hold your pace. Guard your price. Lead with law.